In a response from the White House, President Biden is pledging hundreds of millions of dollars in new aid for Ukraine. NTD's Iris Tao brings us the latest.
He speaks for a people who have shown remarkable courage and strength in the face of brutal aggression.
Hours after Zelensky's plea to Congress, President Biden pledges to do more in the upcoming days, and that includes $800 million in new military aid to Ukraine.
We're going to give Ukraine the arms to fight and defend themselves through all the difficult days ahead. What I'm signing here.
Today's announcement brings the total to $1 billion in aid announced in just the last week. The new funds are going toward 800 anti-aircraft systems to stop Russian planes, 9,000 anti-armor systems to destroy tanks, as well as small arms such as machine guns and grenade launchers.
These are direct transfers of equipment from our Department of Defense to the Ukrainian military to help them as they fight against this invasion. And I thank the Congress for appropriating these funds.
But both Biden and the White House today said they believe the war has no near end in sight.
What I would note is we haven't seen any effort to de-escalate from President Putin and from the Russian militaries.
And there are two things that President Biden did not address today, which was not a surprise. No deal on establishing a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and no news on giving the country fighter jets. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
America is facing an unparalleled energy crisis, and inflation has been soaring to record levels. Former Congressman Dr. Paul Brown is running for Congress again. We're happy to have him here to discuss. Dr. Brown, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you.
You were a former congressman, now running for Congress again in Georgia's 10th District.
Right.
You used to serve on the Subcommittee for Energy and the Environment. Some Democrats are saying we need to ramp up domestic oil production a little bit, but at the same time they're saying we should not unleash American oil, as well as calling for more clean energy. I guess my question is, why can't we do both at the same time?
We can do both at the same time. They're just delusional, and they've bought into this idea that we have human-induced global warming, and they're just continuing to push for that. The reality is that right now, wind and solar are not economically viable without government subsidies, and it's creating more and more debt. Hopefully, eventually, they will be economically viable, but they're not today. And we actually need to ramp up our oil production. We need to do everything we can. Of course, God tells us we've got to be good stewards of our environment, and we should be. And we've been the best stewards worldwide of our environment, and America is way far ahead of all other countries of the world. But the Democrats want to continue to push their radical environmental agenda, the Green New Deal, etc. We need to make our country energy independent, and the way to do that is by uncapping wells that are already capped off. We need to put out leases. We need to use all the energy resources we have as a nation and make America energy independent again.
Now, with that said, do you see a short-term solution to get energy prices down? Americans are, freaking out at the pumps right now.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if President Biden would come on the TV this evening and say we're going to open up the Keystone Pipeline, we'll see gas prices, I think, plummet overnight. The President Biden just said recently that the inflation, the high cost of gasoline, all the energy is all because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that's a bald-faced lie. He knows better than that. It's his radical environmentalist policies that have created all of this, and we've got to lower the cost of energy. Where poor people and senior citizens are being hurt the very most by these radical policies of the Biden administration, and if he would reverse those overnight, we'd see cost of gasoline and diesel fuel come down markedly.
So I want to ask you, how concerned are you that the CCP is working behind the scenes to weaken the United States, especially while the country's focused on the pandemic and putting out all of these other fires throughout the world?
Well, you're absolutely correct. And Dr. Fauci has been conspiring and collaborating with our enemies, the Chinese Communist Party. Now, if you look at the definition in the dictionary, what I just said, and it's quite clear, he's been collaborating and conspiring with the Chinese Communist Party that are our economic enemies and our military enemies. That's the definition of treason. When we look into the truth about COVID and we look at all of the issues that are concerned, then if the evidence is clear, and I think it will be, but we'll see, we'll look at it totally in an unbiased, non-political, totally scientific basis. If it is clear that Dr. Fauci has been conspiring with the Chinese Communist Party, if it's clear, as I believe it is, that he purposefully is causing people to die by getting the FDA to outlaw life-saving treatments. I, as a physician, prescribe ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for my patients. I have yet to have one go to the hospital at all.
On Tuesday, the White House announced that Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff, the husband of Vice President Kamala Harris, has tested positive for the CCP virus. Harris has tested negative. She appeared with President Biden on Tuesday afternoon at a bill signing event with members of Congress. To be cautious, she did not attend any other White House events. Harris and Emhoff are both fully vaccinated and boosted. The Senate passed a resolution repealing the mask mandate on airplanes and other public transportation, but President Biden is threatening to veto it. 8 Democrats joined Republicans in repealing the public health order. It took effect when Biden took office in January 2021. Senator Mitt Romney was the only Republican voting against the repeal. Senator Rand Paul sponsored the bill, and he says that the CDC ignored the science when imposing mandates. 8 Democratic senators crossed party lines voting in favor to eliminate the federal mask mandate. Utah Senator Mitt Romney was the sole Republican to cast his vote against repealing the mandate.
At least 30 studies demonstrate that masks have little to no impact on transmission.
Senator Paul says the CDC did not have constitutional authority to impose mandates.
Furthermore, no statute exists that remotely conveys a power to mandate masks to any department of the federal government.
The mandate was set to end on Friday, but has been extended through April 18th. The Biden administration is giving Afghans who fled their country during the Taliban takeover 18 more months in the United States. Afghans who entered the U.S. by March 15th will be able to apply for a temporary protected status. The status would be set to expire in September of 2023. The protection is intended to keep Afghans from returning or being deported into unsafe conditions in Afghanistan. It would also allow the protected individuals to reside and work in the U.S. According to a statement by the Department of Homeland Security, the protected status will also provide additional protections to certain Afghans who supported the U.S. military, diplomatic and humanitarian missions in Afghanistan. The number of illegal immigrants attempting to cross the southern border rose by 7% from January to February of this year. That number has also quadrupled since the winter of 2020. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, instead of decreasing during winter, the number of illegal immigrants encountered at the border has risen. That's 165,000 people who were stopped attempting to cross into the United States in February, 11,000 more than in January. An increase in the transport of drugs into the U.S. has also increased during the month of February. Methamphetamine seizures rose 97%, and heroin seizures spiked by 173%. The China threat and the crisis at the southern border are 2 issues that have many Americans concerned. We asked border state member of Congress Yvette Herrell about both of these issues. We specifically asked her if in the midst of the Ukraine war, if the crisis on the southern border has gone away. Congresswoman Yvette Herrell, thank you so much for joining us in the Capitol Report.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Now, Congresswoman, you represent a border state in New Mexico. So many different things have transpired over the past few months. This issue seems to have almost hit the back burner. Is it still an issue on the southern border, specifically in your state?
It's 100%. It's never gone away. You know, over 2 million people came into this country illegally last year. We see the numbers continue to grow every month. You know, January was the highest record month. I think February will be a little bit lower because of the cold weather we had. But nobody's talking about the illegals that are pouring in from over 150 different countries. Nobody's talking about the fentanyl crisis that now is the #1 killer of people between the age of 18 and 45 as it relates to overdose. Nobody's talking about the child molestation, the human trafficking, the uptick in crime, and every state is now a border state. And you're right, I represent 180 miles of southern border, but because this administration has failed at securing our border, now every state in the nation is a border state.
Now, Congresswoman, when it comes to China, do you think that there's anything that the U.S. can or should do to prevent a more fortified Russia-China alliance in the process of this war?
Well, I think as a nation, we need to be looking at the bigger picture and ensure that history doesn't repeat itself, as in China looking at Taiwan, looking, back now to see what Russia's done with Ukraine. But one of the things I think we have to and must do is ensure that we are not reliant on our adversaries for medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, which we are right now with China. So let's bring that manufacturing home. Let's ensure that we are putting all of our assets in America, investing in Americans, and utilizing the resources and the bright minds we have here. And I've actually introduced a bill to do just that, bring back the manufacturing of medical goods and services and pharmaceuticals. But we are at just a tipping point right now, I think, globally. And I think right now we need to stand up with courage, with resolve, and we need true leadership.
Congresswoman Yvette Herrell, thank you.
Thank you so much.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken criticized China's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine on Wednesday.
Well, China's already on the wrong side of history when it comes to Ukraine and the aggression being committed by Russia. The fact that it has not stood strongly against it, that it has not pronounced itself against this aggression.
In an interview with NPR, Blinken said if China actually provides material support to Russia in this effort, that would damage its reputation all across the world.